Hey everyone, welcome back to Extra Rise English Podcast, the show that helps you level up your English one real conversation at a time. I am Mia.
And I am Leo. So glad you're here.
Okay, so today we're talking about something that I think is one of the most universally painful experiences for anyone who uses English in a professional setting. You are in a meeting, you have something to say, something genuinely useful, and you either cannot find the right moment to say it, or you say it and it just kind of disappears into the room like it never happened.
Like you spoke, but nobody heard you.
Exactly. And then 2 minutes later, someone else says almost the same thing and everyone responds to it. And you're sitting there thinking, I literally just said that.
That experience has a name. It is called being talked over, and it happens to a lot of people. But it happens disproportionately to people who are not native English speakers. And it happens disproportionately in meetings.
Right, because meetings have a very specific social rhythm, and if you were not trained in that rhythm, if nobody taught you the unwritten rules of how English-speaking meetings actually work, you end up on the outside of the conversation, even when you're physically in the room.
And it's not about your English level. You can have excellent English and still feel invisible in meetings, because the problem isn't vocabulary or grammar. The problem is timing, framing, and confidence language.
3 things, and today we're going to fix all 3. This is segment 1, why meetings feel so hard. Leo, let's start with the honest version, because I think a lot of people listening right now have been in this exact situation. You prepare, you have good ideas, you know the content, and then the meeting starts and somehow you never say a single thing.
Right, and there are a few very specific reasons this happens. The first one is the speed of the conversation. English business meetings move fast. People interrupt each other, build on each other's points, sometimes talk over each other. And if you're processing the conversation slightly slower because you're listening in a second language and simultaneously thinking about what to say, by the time you're ready to speak, the moment has already passed.
Yes, it's like trying to merge onto a highway when all the cars are going 100 kilometers an hour. You keep waiting for a gap, but the gap never comes.
Exactly. And most people's response to that is to just stay in the slow lane and hope someone notices them, which doesn't work. The second reason is confidence language. In English professional settings, especially Western ones, there's a specific set of phrases that signal to the room that you're about to say something important. Native speakers use these phrases instinctively without even thinking about them. But if you don't know them, you either come in without them, which makes your contribution easy to miss, or you wait for someone to invite you to speak, which often never happens.
Right. It's like not knowing the social cues for when it's your turn to speak, so you either stay silent or you say something at the wrong moment and it lands awkwardly.
Exactly. And the third reason, and this one is specific to people from Asian cultural backgrounds, is the instinct to wait for permission. In a lot of Asian professional cultures, you don't speak in a meeting until you're asked. Speaking up unprompted can feel disrespectful, presumptuous, or like you're showing off. But in most international English-speaking professional environments, if you wait to be asked, you'll wait forever. The expectation is that you will advocate for your own ideas.
Right. Nobody is coming to rescue you. You have to claim your space.
You have to claim your space, politely but clearly. And today, we're going to give you the exact language to do that. This is segment 2, the 3 skills. Skill number 1, getting into the conversation. This is the timing problem, knowing how to step into a fast-moving meeting without interrupting rudely or waiting so long that the moment passes. The key is having entry phrases that do 2 things at once. They signal that you're about to speak, and they briefly connect to what was just said, so you're not coming from nowhere.
Okay, what did those sound like?
Some of the most effective ones are building on what Leo just said, or I want to add something to that, or can I jump in here for a second? Or I've been thinking about this and I want to share a quick perspective. All of these phrases do the same thing. They give the room a half-second warning that you're about to speak, and that warning is enough for people to shift their attention to you.
Right. Without that warning, if you just start speaking, people are still mentally focused on the previous speaker and they miss your first sentence, which is the most important sentence.
Exactly. Your first sentence has to land clearly or the rest of the contribution is lost. So the entry phrase buys you the attention you need before you say the important thing. And the phrases that reference what was just said, building on that, adding to that, also signal that you were listening, which makes people more receptive to what you're about to say.
Because nobody wants to listen to someone who clearly wasn't paying attention to what came before.
Right. The entry phrase says, I heard you, I was engaged, and now I have something to add. That's a very different energy from someone who just jumps in with their own point like the conversation before them didn't happen.
Okay, skill number 2, making your idea land. So you've entered the conversation, you have the room's attention for a moment, now you need to say something in a way that actually gets heard and remembered, because there's a big difference between saying an idea and landing an idea.
Right, and the difference comes down to framing. An idea without framing is easy to overlook. An idea with framing feels like it has weight. The structure here is one we've talked about before. Signal, idea, reason. 3 beats. You tell the room you're about to say something worth hearing, you say the thing, and you give them the reason it matters.
Okay, what does that sound like in a meeting context specifically?
So let's say you want to suggest that the team should delay the product launch by 2 weeks. Without framing, you say, I think we should delay the launch. With framing, you say, I want to raise something I think is worth considering before we finalize the timeline. I think we should delay the launch by 2 weeks, and here's why. Right now, we have 3 unresolved issues in the testing phase. If we launch with those still open, we're going to spend the first 2 weeks post-launch firefighting instead of growing. 2 weeks now saves us a month later.
The difference is enormous. The bare version sounds like an opinion. The framed version sounds like a recommendation, like someone who's thought it through.
And the room responds to it completely differently. An opinion is easy to dismiss. A recommendation with evidence is much harder to ignore.
Right. Signal, idea, reason. That structure is the difference between being heard and being overlooked. Okay, skill number 3, responding when your idea gets ignored or someone else gets credit for it. Because this happens. You say something, nobody responds, the conversation moves on, and then 5 minutes later someone else says a version of the same thing, and suddenly everyone's excited about it.
This is one of the most frustrating experiences in any professional setting, and it happens more than people talk about.
So what do you do? Because you can't just sit there feeling invisible, but you also can't say, excuse me, I said that already, without sounding petty.
Right, there's a third option. You reclaim the idea gracefully. You connect what the other person just said back to your original point in a way that's collaborative, not confrontational. Something like, that's a great point, and it actually connects to what I was saying earlier about the timeline. Can we go back to that for a second?
Oh, that's so good, because it doesn't make the other person look bad, it doesn't make you look petty, it just draws a line between your idea and theirs and invites the room to revisit yours.
Right, or even simpler. Yes, exactly. That's what I was suggesting a few minutes ago. Happy to expand on it if it would be helpful. That response does 3 things. It confirms your idea came first, it validates the other person's point without fighting them, and it offers to add value, which keeps the conversation moving forward rather than getting stuck in who said what first.
I love that. Yes, exactly. That's what I was suggesting a few minutes ago. It's confident without being aggressive. You're not attacking anyone. You're just making sure your contribution is visible.
Which is your right. You were in the room, you had the idea, you deserve the credit. Okay, let's go to the phrases. This is the key phrases section.
3 phrases from today, all from the meeting language we just built. Leo, first one.
Phrase number 1. I want to raise something I think is worth considering. This is your meeting framing opener. It does something very specific. It tells the room that what you're about to say is not just a comment or a reaction. It's a considered point, worth their attention, worth slowing down for.
Right, and compare it to just saying, I think, which is how most people open in meetings. I want to raise something I think is worth considering signals confidence and preparation before you've said a single word of your actual idea.
You can shorten it too, depending on the context. I want to flag something here. I want to raise a point here. I think there's something worth discussing before we move on. All of them do the same signal. Pay attention, something important is coming.
And in a fast-moving meeting, that signal is everything, because without it, your idea gets lost in the noise before anyone has a chance to hear it. Phrase number 2. That connects to something I raised earlier. This is your idea reclamation phrase. When your idea gets picked up by someone else, or when it gets overlooked and vindicated later, this phrase lets you draw the connection cleanly without confrontation.
Right, that connects to something I raised earlier, or that's actually what I was suggesting a few minutes ago. Both of them do the same job. They make the connection visible, they credit your original contribution, and they do it in a way that feels collaborative rather than competitive.
And the key word is connects. You're not saying you stole my idea. You're saying these two things are connected, which is generous and accurate and professional all at once.
And then you follow it immediately with an offer to expand. Happy to go deeper on that if it would be helpful, which keeps the conversation moving forward rather than getting stuck in who said what first.
Phrase number 3. Happy to expand on that if it would be helpful. This phrase is doing more than it looks like it is doing. On the surface, it's just an offer to say more, but underneath, it signals that you have more to say, that you have thought about this beyond what you already shared, that you are engaged and prepared and ready to contribute further.
And in a meeting where everyone is half distracted and running through their own mental checklist, signaling that you have more to contribute is how you stay in the conversation. It's an invitation for the room to come back to you.
Right, it's not aggressive, it's not demanding, it's just, I have more, and if you want it, here I am, which is exactly the tone you want in a professional meeting.
Confident, available, not pushy. Okay, listeners, 3 phrases. I want to raise something I think is worth considering. That connects to something I raised earlier. Happy to expand on that if it would be helpful. Say those out loud right now. Pause, say them.
All right, segment 3, the drill. 3 meeting scenarios, all of them out loud. Leo, ready?
Ready.
Okay, scenario 1. You're in a team meeting. The conversation is moving fast. You have an idea about the marketing strategy that nobody has mentioned yet. You want to get into the conversation without interrupting rudely. What do you do?
I would wait for a brief natural pause. Even a half second between 2 speakers is enough. And then I would say, can I jump in here for a second? I want to raise something I think is worth considering about the marketing angle. I think we're focusing a lot on the digital campaign, but we haven't talked about how we're going to reach the audience that's not online yet. That demographic is actually a significant part of our target market, and if we don't have a plan for them, we're going to have a gap in our launch coverage.
That entry was perfect. He used, can I jump in here for a second, which claimed the floor politely. He used, I want to raise something I think is worth considering, which told the room to pay attention. And then he delivered the idea with a clear reason. We have a gap in our launch coverage. Signal, idea, reason. All 3 beats in under 30 seconds.
And notice the energy. He didn't apologize for speaking. He didn't say sorry to interrupt. He just asked for the floor clearly and then used it confidently. That energy matters as much as the words.
Okay, say that out loud. Can I jump in here for a second? Then use the signal, idea, reason structure with your own professional context. Pause and try it now. Scenario 2. You suggested in a meeting 10 minutes ago that the team should push the project deadline back by 1 week. Nobody responded. The conversation moved on. Now, a senior colleague just said almost exactly the same thing, and everyone is nodding and agreeing. What do you do?
I would say, yes, exactly. That connects to something I raised earlier about the timeline. I'm glad the team is aligned on this. Can we also talk about what the revised deadline means for the deliverables on the other side? Because if we push the deadline, we also need to adjust the review schedule or we're going to create a bottleneck at the end.
Oh, that response is so mature and so smart. He confirmed his original point. That connects to something I raised earlier. He didn't make the other person look bad. I'm glad the team is aligned. And then he immediately moved the conversation forward. Can we also talk about what this means for the deliverables? So instead of getting stuck in who said what first, he used the moment to add even more value.
Right. The goal is never to win the argument about who said it first. The goal is to make sure your contribution is visible and keep adding value. If you do both of those things, the room will notice. It always comes out in the end.
Say that response out loud. Yes, exactly. That connects to something I raised earlier. Pause and say it now. Last one. Scenario 3. You've just finished sharing an idea in a meeting. The room seems interested, but nobody has asked a follow-up question yet. You want to signal that you have more to add without just talking at people. What do you say?
I would say that's the short version. I'm happy to expand on that if it would be helpful. I have a few specific examples from our last quarter that I think would be relevant here.
I love that. The short version tells the room what you just heard is the summary, not the whole picture. It creates curiosity, and then happy to expand if it would be helpful, invites them in without forcing them. And then he added a specific hook. I have a few specific examples from our last quarter, which gives them a concrete reason to say, yes, tell us more.
Right. You're not just saying, I have more. You're saying, I have more and here's specifically what it is. That specificity is what gets the yes.
Okay, say that out loud. That's the short version. Happy to expand on that if it would be helpful. Pause and try it now. All right, listeners, go back and say all 3 responses out loud. All 3. The entry, the reclamation, the expansion signal. Say them until they feel like something you would actually say in a real meeting, because that's the whole point. These are not phrases for a test. They're phrases for a Tuesday morning when your manager asks for updates and you have something worth saying. All right, wrapping up, here's your one thing from today. Being heard in a meeting is not about being the loudest or the most confident or the most fluent. It's about knowing when to enter, how to frame what you say, and how to make sure your contribution stays visible. The language does that work for you. You just have to know the phrases and be willing to use them. Claim your space. You earned it.
And your assignment for this week, the next time you're in any meeting, a class, a work call, a group discussion, use one entry phrase, just one. Can I jump in here for a second? I want to raise something I think is worth considering. Building on what was just said, say it out loud in a real situation. Then come to the comments and tell us what happened. We want to hear every single story.
We genuinely do. And if this episode gave you something useful, if it made the next meeting feel less like a place where you go to stay quiet and more like a place where you go to contribute, share it with one person who has been sitting silent in meetings they should be leading, not because it helps us, because that person is out there right now preparing for a meeting and not knowing they have permission to speak. Be the one who sends this to them.
And if you want more of this every single week, subscribe. We'll be here.
All right, thank you so much for being here on Extra Rise English Podcast. And remember,
Because one serving of English is never enough.
see you in the next episode.